want to quickly find the average marks for a student in Excel, you can use the average function. In this video, we will see how to use the average function. So in math, to find the average, you first find the total and then you divide it by the number of values. So let's say if I have to find the average for James, I'll first add up the marks and then I will divide it by the number of subjects, which is 6 in this case. So you find the sum and divide by the number of values. So instead of using these two steps, Excel provides you a direct function called average. Let's see how to do that. The syntax of the average function is you give the average function and then you give the range of numbers. So I'll say is equal to, I'll say average, and then I will select the range of values, hit enter, it returns the average. You can even go and give the range of cells yourself, like you can say E5 to E10 and it will give you the same thing. Now some important things you must remember as a beginner. The average function ignores anything that is in text and even blank cells. So let's say you have 40 and 20. You take the average, you get 30. But if you delete this 20, it will ignore the cell. So even if you have selected both the cells, it will ignore the cell with blank and it will take the count only as 1. So it will treat the range as only one cell. It will ignore the cell with blank. Similarly, it will ignore any cell with text. So that is something that you must remember when using average. There's also the average A function in Excel. The average A function treats text and logical values such as false as 0. I've covered average A in another video. Next, we'll take a look at the common mistakes when using the average function. So if you want to use the average function, just make sure all the numbers are actually numbers, because if any number is stored as text, Excel is going to ignore it and then you will not get the correct average. So make sure all your numbers are stored as numbers and not text. There's also this hidden cells confusion. So let's say if you filter the data and certain rows get hidden. So I'll say, let's say this English and science. So let's say when you filter, those rows are hidden, but when you take the average, it's still going to consider the hidden rows, the values in the hidden rows. So if you filter data sets and expect average to update the average based on the number of visible rows, that is not going to happen. Average is still going to count the values in the hidden rows. So if you really want to ignore the values that are hidden, then you must use the subtotal function instead. So using subtotal, you can calculate average wherein it will ignore the hidden rows. Subtotal is also covered in another video. So hiding rows does not remove them from calculations. Excel will still include hidden values in average. On the other hand, subtotal is commonly used in filtered data sets. So as mentioned in the beginning, average is basically sum divided by count. Now, practical examples of average function include finding average of student marks, finding average monthly sales, average daily temperature, and so on. Now, if you want to calculate averages with conditions, Excel also has average if and average if s functions. We'll cover this in the next videos. That's all in this video. Do subscribe to our channel. It really helps us produce more videos. Thanks for watching.